You're watching Gears, brought to you by LNC Truck. Keep them on the road.
Hey, welcome to Gears. You know, a while back, we started a project called the SR-71 Rapid Tool Express. And the idea behind that was to take one of the most iconic aircraft of all time, the SR-71 Blackbird, and combine it with the 100th anniversary of America's oldest tool company, Cornwell Tools, and create the ultimate tool delivery truck. Of course, when we rolled in a '59 Ford panel as the base vehicle, we got a lot of positive comments because you just don't see that body style very much. Of course, there were a few that said we were just absolutely crazy. Then, when we added the Roadster shop chassis, people really began to take notice because they realized how easy it is to put a replacement chassis under your project. And then, when we unveiled the John Cossey SR-71 Big Block Ford, people went completely nuts. Because they couldn't believe you could get that kind of power out of these Cobra Jet style SR-71 heads. Or was it the blower? Or the injection? Or the blower?
Or the heads? The injection, the blower, the head.
But as cool as all of this stuff is, the big thing that people say they want to see is how are we going to turn this into a tool delivery truck back here? What are we going to do inside? That's what we're going to show you today. As soon as I fix this door handle. Now, since Cornwell Tools have always been available on a tool truck, not in a retail store, they know what it takes to set up a tool truck properly because they have 100 years experience doing it. And they take all of that experience and combine it with companies like Summit Body Works to do the build-outs on all the Cornwell tool trucks that you see rolling up and down the road. So I took all of Cornwell's experience and added my specific criteria of what I wanted in the back of the Rapid Tool Express because it has to match the look and the style and the feel of what I'm doing with the rest of the truck. And this was going to be a challenge for Summit since they usually build a more industrial tool truck that you can stand up in. But they were up for the challenge, so we all started working. First, we got rid of the old plywood floor and then took care of any rust or damage underneath. Then the whole body was covered with sound deadener to get rid of that tin can echo that these old panel trucks are known for. Then a new floor was made out of 3/4-inch solid oak planks that were glued together to create a single platform, and a 100th anniversary Cornwell logo was engraved in the wood. Now the fuel door was also located in the floor based off of previous measurements that I'd made before we took the body off. To go on the floor, lower side cabinets were constructed with a gradual curve to mimic the shape of the nose of the SR-71 aircraft. Removable panels were added for easy access and storage. And on top, sloped faces were designed with foam cutouts to give us a place to showcase tools. Then, to add more tool displays, an upper shelf was constructed with sloped faces and foam cutouts as well. This gives the interior a stadium feel that allows a person to see every tool on display while standing at the back of the truck, so you don't have to crawl in to see everything. And finally, the ceiling was covered with a laced pegboard to hold additional tools and hardware, just like you'd see on a full-size truck. Okay, that takes care of the general design, but there's a lot more going on here because we need lights, we need sound, and we need a way to power it all. Overhead lights were installed, as well as blue and red display lights to help show off the tools. And a power panel was installed along with batteries and a power inverter so we can plug into the wall to get power, or we can run off our own battery power. And once we get the tools in place, you'll see that this quickly becomes the most unique tool display you'll ever see. And with the distressed vinyl and the visual cues of the SR-71 and Cornwell Tools, it definitely follows my vision for the SR-71 Rapid Tool Express. Oh, there is one other thing. On the other lower cabinet, we slipped in an Ignator tweaker guitar amp with the speakers hidden in the forward area of the cabinet. So we can crank the truck to 11 anytime we want. Hey, welcome back to GearZ, where we are right in the middle of laying out the business end of the Rapid Tool Express. Now, since we are building this truck as a tribute to the 100th anniversary of Cornwell Tools, it's kind of important that this thing be able to carry some tools. And as you can see, we've got all kinds of tools and displays and shelves stuffed inside this thing to make it a one-of-a-kind tool delivery truck. And that brings us up to the front because there's nothing to sit on up here. And that's going to be a bit of a problem when we go to drive this thing. So we need to lay out our seats, and we're not going to reuse those. So we need something that has more of an aircraft look to it. We found exactly what we were looking for from TMI. Take a look. This is the Pro Circuit Sport VXR high back bucket seat. And it not only looks like something that might have come out of a jet aircraft, but it also has complete back recline. It's got side bolsters on the base and on the back to hold you in place during hard maneuvers, and it has full adjustment forward and back. The best part is, though, TMI will upholster these in whatever material you want. So we had it done in a distressed brown and black to match the rest of the interior. So now all we need to do is get them in place. Now, even though the TMI seats come with a universal mounting bracket, that doesn't mean that they're just going to drop in place and fit perfectly. No, this is where you need to spend some time making sure that they fit right. Now, first of all, you want to center the seat up with your gauges. Then, as far as height goes, you want to make sure the seat sits high enough to where you're looking through the center of the windshield, preferably a little higher. That way you have good visibility looking down over the road when you're driving. Now, this might require making some brackets, doing some shims, whatever it takes to do it right. Okay, once that's done, you're ready to start positioning your steering column. Now, this isn't just about left and right. It's also about how high it's going to sit in the vehicle and what kind of angle it's going to sit at. So what kind of steering drop that you need. Now, to do this, you just need an old steering column or just a steering shaft with a steering wheel like this. Or if you don't have that, you can just use a broom handle and a pie plate. Just something so you can get some measurements. Once you have the measurements, it's just a matter of getting the right column, the drop, the steering shaft, the floor hardware from I Did It, and your steering is taken care of. Now, while we're inside here, this is a good time to lay out the rest of the interior. And just like any old vehicle, this truck needs a lot of original style restoration parts. And the place for that is LMC Truck. Check it out. Now, obviously, we're going to need to reseal the doors and windows on this thing once I get paint on it. So, to do that, we picked up new windshield weather stripping and new door weather stripping. But that's not all. We also got all brand new window channel and hardware, so those windows are going to roll up and down like they should. And we also got new rubber for the vent windows and new hardware because this is always rusted up. And good luck finding that in a junkyard, so you might as well get it new. Now, to finish off the outer doors, we got new door locks, we got new door handles for inside, we got new sun visors and brackets, we even have hardware to mount the body down on the frame. Now, to prevent heat and sound from leaking into your interior, most vehicles have some sort of a firewall pad. And as you just saw, they're ugly. Well, LMC changed all that with these firewall pads. Now look at this. Got a nice hard outer shell that looks good, and you can either trim it to fit original, or you can custom trim it if you're doing something custom like we are. Now, we also got a carpet set for a '59 Ford truck, which is also going to be the same on a panel. Now, like I said before, the time to put all this in is once you have paint on the vehicle. So for now, we're just going to set it aside, log it into our project planning book, and wait for final assembly. Speaking of the firewall, we obviously have some modifications to do to ours because we no longer need the holes for the heater or the windshield wiper motor or even the master cylinders. Now, there's a couple ways you can approach this. You can either weld it all up, smooth it down, and start over, or you can build some sort of panel to cover that stuff. And since we're going after a military aircraft look like this, we're probably going to build some panels and accent them with rivets. But before we can even do that, we've got to come in here, as you can see, and smooth things down, grind off some deals, because any panel you put on a firewall has got to fit flat against it if you want it to look right. Hey, welcome back to GearZ, where we are deep in the middle of the SR-71 tool truck project. Now, so far, we've taken care of the tool aspect in the back of the truck. Then we laid out the seats and the steering and the weather stripping and other aspects of the interior, which means we are just about ready to put this body down on that chassis. But before we can do that, we have a few more things we need to lay out that just came in. So let's check it out. The first is the fuel tank. Now, if you'll remember, the plan was to mount the fuel tank in here between the exhaust pipes where there never was a tank before. So that meant we not only had to design the tank, but also how it would be mounted and how it would be accessed. So I made some very precise drawings of the tank and sent them off to Rickstanks in Texas. This is what we got back. And that is not it, because Rick's specializes in stainless steel fuel tanks, both stock replacement tanks and custom tanks. So they took our measurements, and this is what they built. Starting with 304 stainless steel, they formed the tank and TIG welded it all together and added the side mounting brackets. To take care of the fuel delivery, they installed twin electric aeromotive fuel pumps with all of the proper inlets and outlets to plumb it. They also added the fuel sending unit, a vent, and the filler cap too. Rick's also designs their tanks with internal baffling, so fuel slosh will not be a problem if you're going to be doing some high-performance driving. To install the tank, we're going to mock it in place and do whatever clearancing we have to do to the frame. Then we'll do our final fitting of our mounting brackets once we have the body back on. Now, another thing that we need to take care of while we have the body off of the chassis is the placement of the brake pedal and the master cylinder. Now, we've already shown you that we're going to mount them down here on the frame instead of on the firewall, and we have preliminary measurements done. Now all we need is the components that's going to make this happen. Let's check it out. Master Power Brakes specializes in complete braking systems or just the components that you need to make your existing system work right. For example, to make these bare brakes work properly, they've got a lot of aluminum master cylinders and brake boosters to choose from. Now, when it comes to brake boosters, you've heard that size doesn't matter. Well, with brake boosters it does, because the 8-inch is going to stop a lot better than the smaller 7-inch. So if you have room for the 8, that's what you need to put in there. Now, when it comes to master cylinders, anytime you mount a master cylinder under the floor, you create a problem. You have to cut a hole to get to the master cylinder to fill it. Well, you've just seen what we put in this vehicle. There's no room to put a hole in the floor. There's seats and tools in the way. So we're going to solve the problem with this remote master cylinder and reservoir. This goes down on the frame. This mounts wherever you want to put it. It can go behind the seat, it can go in the console, it can go on the firewall, wherever. Then you just run hoses down to the master cylinder and you're good to go. Then we also got combination valves, we got plumbing, we got residual valves, everything we're going to need to make the system work. Now, anytime you run a high horsepower engine, one problem you run into is lack of vacuum to make the power booster work. So we're going to run one of these silent drive vacuum pumps. This is going to add enough vacuum to power these brakes to stop a 1,000 horsepower vehicle that we just added a ton of weight to. Yeah, brakes are important. Hey, welcome back to GearZ and the moment of truth, because it's time to put the body of the SR-71 down on the chassis. And this is where you cross your fingers and hope that all those measurements you made were right. Looking good. As you can see, the body dropped right in place on the chassis and all the holes lined up perfectly. So let's see if the same is true for the front sheet metal. All right, with the fenders in place, you can see how nicely this is all fitting together. Now, obviously, I need to come in and fabricate some new inner fenders to clear the suspension and the headers. I need to put on the radiator, do all that stuff, but we're not gonna mess with that today because today we're checking fitment of the frame with the body. So we're gonna keep moving forward and put on the headlights and the grille. Now, some of you hardcore Ford guys out there might be wondering why I'm calling this truck a 59 when the upper grille is a 60. Well, the grills are interchangeable, so it was pretty common for people to swap on the more desirable 60 grille back in the day. All right, now we come to one of the biggest issues that people have with late 50s Ford trucks, the bumper and the grille, because Ford didn't win any design awards with this. It's really basic and it's really flat. But they did knock it out of the park with another bumper, the one on the 59 Thunderbird, because not only was it the biggest bumper ever stamped, but it also had a really cool shape. So we went to the bird's nest and got an original 59 bumper because we're going to do some modifications to it, but you won't believe what this bumper will look like on that truck. Now that is awesome, man. Look at that. Now, obviously, we need to trim the ends of the frame rails. We need to work the ends of the bumpers. We have to blend it in around the headlights, but man, look at that. You get the idea. It looks like it's going to jump out and grab you, which is what the SR-71 would do. Now, that takes care of the front bumper. What about the rear bumper? Now, we got something for that too. Come on. Now, obviously, a stock rear bumper is not going to work back here based on what we're doing on the front. But what is going to work? Because it's not like you can just go down to a junkyard and find classic car parts anymore. But the next best thing is an LMC truck catalog. Because look at this, they've got these great little diagrams in here that not only show you how the parts fit, they also show you the shape and the contour of them, which means you're probably going to be able to find something in there off of some vehicle that's going to get you at least in the ballpark. For example, this is the front bumper off of a 55 through 59 Chevy pickup. It's also a great fit for the rear of a 59 Ford panel. Look at that. The contour is almost perfect. All we need to do is work the center a little bit, do some shaping to the ends, build some mounting brackets, and make our cutouts for our exhaust, and we have a custom bumper. The best part is you're dealing with brand new parts, not just some old rusty junk you found out in a field.